My old boss fired me and said I'd be nothing. So I bought the company and became his boss. He didn't just fire me, he performed a eulogy for my future. "Dani, you'll never amount to anything," Jonah said, sliding the termination letter across the glass like a dealer with a bad hand. I smiled because if I didn't, I'd scream. I walked out with a cardboard box and a promise. I would never let one small man fence in my horizon. In the elevator, the fluorescent lights hummed, and my reflection looked back, tired, humiliated, but unbroken. By the time the doors opened, I'd picked a new job title for myself. Problem. Jonah thought he ended the chapter. I decided to start a saga. On my phone, I typed 3 words to myself. Buy them all. I freelanced at first, building software that fixed the problems Jonah said couldn't be solved. Startups paid me in gratitude and equity. I took both and slept on code instead of pillows. Contracts multiplied after I solved the supply chain mess that had stalled the national grocer for 3 months in 48 hours. Money followed, then mentorship from a quiet billionaire who hated bullies more than he loved yachts. He taught me 2 rules: rent your pride, own your options. We started a fund with one thesis: buy companies people underestimate. My attorney drew a map of shell entities that looked like a spider web with fangs. At the center, an acquisition vehicle with no visible link to me. Target, Echelon Systems, Jonah's new employer. I walked past Echelon's headquarters at lunch just to hear the building breathe. Through the revolving doors, I saw Jonah glide by with that same thick smoke like a scar. The receptionist laughed at something he said. I wondered if she knew he collected tears. Public filings said Echelon was stable. Supplier whispers said otherwise. Their legacy platform was bleeding customers like a slow leak in a submarine. Inside 12 weeks, that leak would be a flood. I bought coffee for a former Echelon engineer who had quit in disgust. He slid a thumb drive across the table like contraband. "Your villain likes shortcuts," he said. "They're about to catch up." The thumb drive held a quiet catastrophe. Shortcuts in security that a grad student could breach. Worse, Jonah had signed off on causing the fix to hit a quarterly bonus. If a breach hit the news, Echelon's brand would crater. I didn't want a breach, I wanted a bargain. We discreetly hired the best white hat team in the city, documented the holds, and notarized the timeline. Our lawyers wrote a letter Echelon's board couldn't ignore. I gave them 30 days to act for the safety of customers. On day 31, their chair finally replied. "Let's talk," the email said, sent at 3:03 a.m. We met in a hotel conference room that smelled like carpet cleaner and fear. I wore gray, forgettable, deliberate. My banker slid a folder with a number that made 3 directors blink at the same time. "It's too low," the chair said. "It's generous," my banker replied, "given your exposure." I stayed silent. Silence is heavier than cash when you use it right. They asked who the buyer was. "An operating group with patient capital," I said. They didn't realize I was the patients. Jonah discovered the talks and stormed into the boardroom with a smile boiling vinegar. He pitched a transformational update that would fix everything in 90 days. I recognized the slides. He'd stolen the design language from a deck I'd made 2 years earlier. The board wavered. People love fireworks, even when the fuse is wet. I asked for a private session and handed them a sealed envelope. Inside was the notarized timeline, showing Jonah's signature delaying the fix for his bonus. The room quieted into that special silence that ends careers. No one looked at Jonah when they adjourned. He left first fast. The chair called me. "If we sell, do our people survive?" "People do," I said. "Excuses don't." He understood. Their culture would be scrubbed with steel wool. We signed an exclusivity agreement. The clock began. Due diligence revealed rot in surprising places, no fraud, just laziness stacked like dirty dishes. The price adjusted down with each drawer we opened. I asked for one more clause: retention packages for the doers, not the talkers. The chair agreed, almost relieved. Then he added softly, "There's one condition from Jonah." "Jonah wants an exit bonus if we sell," the chair said, embarrassed by the words. "He failed up his whole life," I replied. "That ends now." I offered $1, literally, and a mutual non-disparagement Jonah would inevitably break. The chair laughed for the first time in months. "We'll present it." He didn't ask who I was anymore. He asked who I'd make them become. We circled the date, Friday 9 a.m. final vote. I framed the calendar invite. I also hired extra security. Wounded egos do stupid things. On Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I remembered the elevator, the box, the sentence that branded my ribs. Hatred is a battery. It doesn't last forever. Purpose does. I checked the models again. Numbers aligned like constellations. Every scenario said the same thing. We could fix Echelon and double it in 2 years. If we kept our hands steady. At 2:17 a.m., a text arrived from an unknown number. Good luck tomorrow, problem. J. Jonah remembered the nickname I gave myself. 9 directors, 1 agenda, 5 minutes of small talk that felt like a funeral. The chair called the question. Hands rose like reluctant flags. 8 yes, 1 abstention. Jonah burst through the door 3 beats late, eyes hot. You're selling us to her? He spat, finally recognizing me. The board had not told him the buyer's name. I stood calm. Hello, Jonah, I said. Remember when I wouldn't amount to anything? He didn't answer. The room did. Lawyers moved paper mountains. Signatures turned into destiny. At 11:42 a.m., wires hummed and ownership changed hands like a loaded secret. I became the majority owner of Echelon Systems. Employees gathered in the atrium. I took the mic. We're going to fix what's broken without breaking what works, I said. Applause started small and grew like a storm you can finally name. Jonah watched from the mezzanine, fists in pockets. HR handed him an envelope with my $1 exit check. He laughed once sharp and then went very quiet. We shut the legacy system down for 40 minutes at midnight to install the real fix. I stayed on the floor with the engineers, passing coffee, catching errors, cheering quietly. At 12:39 a.m., the new firewall held against our own stress attack, 6 million simulated hits a minute. At 12:41, a real attack pinged us. Someone had been waiting. The team snapped into formation like a single organism. The breach died on contact. We logged the IP and smiled. It traced back to a boutique consultancy Jonah used to recommend. We didn't call him. We strengthened perimeter logging and hardened the core. Then we slept under our desks like founders again. On Monday, I walked the floors and met the quiet people who keep empires alive. A tester named Priya showed me a spreadsheet that was smarter than half our tools. A custodian named Luis knew which execs skipped passcodes because the beeps annoyed them. We rebuilt incentives so the invisible work started winning visible rewards. Upper management squirmed. Sunlight burns the decorative. 1 VP resigned before lunch, 2 more after. By week's end, product velocity doubled. By week 2, churn halved. By week 3, rumors began that we were impossible to beat. He asked for a meeting off campus. We met in a diner that had seen better vinyl. He ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. I can help, he said, eyes darting. With what? I asked. We already removed your signature from the bomb you armed. He flinched. He slid a folder across the table, names of board members he claimed he could influence elsewhere, competitors who wanted in. Leverage, he said. I kept my hands in my pockets and my smile in my throat. My legal team had wired me with consent from local law enforcement. Extortion is educational. Jonah bragged himself into a corner, then tried to crawl out through a lie. When he realized, the blood drained from his face like courage leaving a speech. We didn't arrest him. We let him leave with his folder and his fear. The tape was leverage, yes, but also mercy. I emailed him 1 sentence. Your best move now is silence. He replied with none. Reporters packed out our auditorium like auditors with adjectives. I announced the security overhaul, the customer credits, the new roadmap. Then I took questions. A hand shot up. Dani, what about claims your former boss mismanaged risk for bonuses? I leaned in. We don't punch backward, I said. The tape rested quietly in a safe that wasn't in the building. The market responded anyway. By close, our stock leapt 18%. By morning, 3 competitors called about partnerships. The receptionist who once laughed at Jonah's jokes asked for a minute. Thank you, she said, eyes glossy. He wasn't kind. I nodded. We were building a place where kindness scaled. In the cafeteria, an engineer I'd mentored in my freelance days hugged me, stiff at first, then real. Feels different in the air, he said. Culture is what you breathe when no one is watching. At 5 p.m., security pinged me. Jonah was in the lobby. He wanted to speak like humans. I said yes and set the meeting in the glass-walled conference room. Jonah started with a sigh rehearsed for sympathy. I was under pressure, he said. I made calls I regret. I let the silence grow flowers between us. You didn't break me, I said softly. You built me. He blinked, surprised that his cruelty had an unintended dividend. I slid a copy of his $1 check across the table. Cash it, I said. Frame it. Remember the day the math changed. He swallowed, looked down, and nodded. Then he tried one last angle. Could I consult? No, I said, not unkindly. Not now, not later. Some doors must remain closed to keep the house upright. He stood to leave, then hesitated. You were always better than me, he said, trying to turn humility into currency. I didn't accept it. At the elevator, he turned back. For what it's worth, he said, I believed that sentence when I said it. That's why you'll never be me, I replied. 3 months in, we audited everything: code, costs, contracts, coffee. Waste fell like autumn leaves. We composted it into runway. Our NPS spiked. Our competitors called us annoying. We launched a feature customers had begged for years. Usage spiked so hard our graphs looked like stairways to oxygen. Support tickets dropped 38% in a week. That night, I stood alone in the server room, hands on cool steel. I remembered the box, the sentence, the elevator hum. Whatever this was, it was mine now. A global conglomerate offered to buy us for a number that could own islands. My board salivated. Investors paced like wolves seeing daylight. I asked for a day. In the morning, I sent a 2-line response. We're flattered. We're busy. Shares dipped for an hour, then roared back. Choosing yourself is the purest PR. My mentor called. You just told the market who you are, he said. I know, I replied, and who we're not. A blogger published a story. Source claims CEO buying company out of revenge. Cute headline, wrong truth. Revenge starts engines, vision drives cars. I wrote an open letter to the team only. It leaked within an hour, of course. In it, I wrote, we don't build to prove people wrong. We build to prove our users right. The blogger updated the headline without apology. Traffic spiked, so did our inbound resumes. A university asked me to speak. I told graduates that no one can forecast your altitude if they've only measured your fear. I didn't mention Jonah by name. Afterward, a student with anxiety tattooed behind her eyes asked, what if they're right about me? They're not, I said. But even if they were, you're allowed to edit. She cried into my blazer and left grinning. On the flight home, I opened my notes app and wrote a line I'd waited years to feel. I'm no longer motivated by the man who fired me. Then I deleted it because I didn't need it anymore. An envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, my original termination letter, creased and tired. Someone had written across it in careful pen. Thank you. I knew whose handwriting it was. Not Jonah's. The HR associate who had slipped me a bottle of water that day. People remember the smallest mercies longest. I framed the letter beside our first postfix uptime chart. Failure and recovery, roommates on the same wall. Then I scheduled one last meeting. All hands, standing room only. 2 announcements, I said. First, everyone in this room is getting equity. Yes, even facilities and frontline support. The roar felt like sunlight turning into sound. Second, I continued, we've created a fund to invest in founders who've been underestimated, dismissed, or told they'd be nothing. On the screen behind me, the Nothing Fund in giant letters, already oversubscribed. I ended with the only twist I'd saved for myself. Jonah once said I'd never amount to anything. He was wrong about me and about me. We're going to make sure no one else gets that sentence without a sequel. And somewhere in a small apartment across town, a $1 check quietly cleared. Months later, after months of relentless work and strategic maneuvering, I stood in the same office where he belittled me. He looked up, his face a mask of confusion, then recognition, then dawning horror. I didn't need to say a word. The look on his face, the silent understanding that I was now the one in control, was all the victory I needed. He had told me I'd be nothing, but he was wrong. I was everything he never thought I could be. I was his boss.